Indicate says I'm live. Okay. Hello everybody, this is ReBoot. This is one of my favorite speed games, and I'm just gonna dive right into it. I'll explain as I go. Time is gonna start when I say new game here. So it will start, assuming, everyone's ready. I'm gonna give it a countdown from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So, ReBoot, it was based on a cartoon from the 90s. I believe it was the first fully 3D animated cartoon out there. It started in like 95 or something. It takes place in a computer. You play this character, Bob. He is a guardian. He fights viruses. That's basically all you need to know about the story. The game starts off pretty fast, so I'm going to do some things I'll explain later. Every level has a couple of objectives. There are tears that will spawn, and every level also has some keys that you need to collect. And once you have mended the tears and collected the keys, the level exit will open and you can move on. I just took a bunch of damage there because I'm going to be using a few death abuse strats. The tears will spawn at set times. The first tear in this level spawns after 30 seconds. The second tear spawns 30 seconds after you mend the first. The third tear is supposed to spawn 30 seconds after you mend the second. However, or it might be 45, but, however, there is a glitch I found where if you die between mending the first and second tear, it will spawn the third tear sooner. This is true, I believe, on every level. You can actually only apply it to a few levels, but it should mean the third tear is going to spawn in just a second here. There it is. I'm actually going to go out of my way and grab another extra life over here, just for marathon safety. I shouldn't game over, and if I do, I have a save file set up, so I'll be able to go back to where I died, but let's just try to avoid that. In the upper left, you can see my primary weapon and my secondary weapon. My primary weapon right now is the pistol. My secondary weapon is the mending beam. I collect upgrades for the primary weapons, and I collect ammo for secondary weapons as it comes up. I'll point those out as I get them. Now the second level's a bit longer. It's 1 minute between each tear spawning. However, using that death abuse to spawn the third tear sooner, we save a whole lot of time. It's a really nice thing to have found. It saves something like 2 minutes over just the first 3 levels, being able to spawn those tears sooner. There used to be a lot of dead time at the start of this run, but now it really picks up faster. I'm just coming over here to grab an extra life before heading over to the first tear. I'm also going to point out right now the really weird physics in this game. You're on a hoverboard the whole time. There we go. And because of that, the game ends up very floaty. There we go. I use R1 and L1 to strafe, and if you pay attention, you'll actually notice me doing that a whole lot during the run. I do that to balance myself, I do it to gain speed going up slopes. I am probably pressing either R1 or L1 like 50% of the time during this run, just trying to keep myself moving fast. Jumping is a little weird. You press square to crouch and then release it to actually, do the jump. A lot of jumps, if you land and then immediately try to jump, it won't go through, so you gotta be careful about that. So yeah, just the general movement is very hard to get the hang of in this, but once you have it down, it's one of the most satisfying games I've played. A minute ago, I picked up a second primary weapon. This is the blaster. You can charge shots and let them go. This is the primary weapon I'm going to be using through most of the game. The pistol really isn't very good. The blaster will do a lot more damage. I'll also mention now, you kind of saw it with that last tear, but tears have a weird, like, gravitational pull to them. So anytime you're trying to mend a tear, you're also kind of playing a balancing act where you don't want to let it pull you too close, but you also need to stay close enough to have the mending beam on it. And in addition, if you get too close, tears will do a little bit of damage to you. It's usually not enough to worry about, but sometimes it can, sometimes it can be a problem. Okay, going into the third level now. This level picks up a little bit. You can see in the bottom left corner of the screen, this level has 3 keys instead of just 1. I'm actually going to try to get all of them before the first tear spawns. First here, I'm going to grab the last pistol upgrade. There are more weapon upgrades around, but once a weapon is at level 3, it can't actually get any stronger. Picking up more upgrades just doesn't do anything to it.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
Okay, I'm gonna jump down here and try to do a little squeeze to get over here to the last key. Yeah, it's fine if I drop down here. There's a big monster there. I'm gonna go deal with him in a minute. Okay, and then the first tear should spawn right now. That timing works out pretty well. After I mend this, I'm just going to hang out by one of these barrels and blow it up to kill myself in about 10 seconds. Should be enough. Yeah, this level used to have a very different route, but
Too bad, Bob.
if I want to now use the death abuse and also pick up a an extra life in time, it had to change.
Holy killer calamari!
So this is... wait.
Squid Face won't be bothering mainframe again.
I hope you guys could hear that. That was Squid Face. It's one of my favorite little fights in the game. Oh. Should go pick up a life while I have time. There aren't a lot of good lines you end up hearing in this because you skip all the cutscenes. But, oh boy, does this game have some good dialogue.
Warning. Incoming tears. Evacuate area.
The whole show did, too, honestly. It was such a good show. Very silly. Very full of bad puns.
Warning. Incoming tears. Evacuate area immediately.
Ooh, that was a good third tear. When you're standing on that, or hovering on that slope next to it, it can be hard to, stay on that tear.
Complete.
Okay. Getting into level 4. This is where the game really starts picking up. I'm not going to do death abuse strats almost anymore. This is getting to the point where tears might spawn before I get to them. And that's where a lot of the challenge of this run comes from. This one I'm going to start here by running over here and grabbing this key. When I get back over to where the first tear spawns, I'm going to have to kill a guy here. For the most part, in the first levels, you can kind of ignore the enemies and you'll probably be fine. They're really not much of a threat.
Evacuate area immediately.
From here on, you can still mostly ignore enemies. And to go fast, you kind of have to, because they'll have a lot of health. But, yeah, some of them you do actually need to get out of the way, or they'll just kill you. Or some of the weaker ones are physically in your way, and I will take them out like I am. Like I tried to with these guys. There we go.
Key acquired.
And then the second tear is going to spawn here. I'm also going to point out, on the left side of the screen, you can see a flamethrower pickup. I'm actually going to ignore most of the other secondary weapons, like the flamethrower. They're really not very useful in the run. Some of them are fun to play with, but they're not very fast. Levels hard for you casually? Yeah, this is around where the game really starts getting hard. I've heard a lot of people... Well, I'll say that in a second. First, I'm going to point out I'm picking up the rockets here. The rockets are the third and final primary weapon. I'm hardly going to use them, for most of the run. They're very strong, but they're very inaccurate and they use a lot of ammo. So I mostly don't need those. Also, these bombs I'm running into do a little bit of damage, but not usually so much that you need to worry about it.
Warning. Incoming tears. Evacuate area immediately.
Like, even right now, I need to make a fairly big mistake to die. Especially since I already took out all the enemies down here. Hey, caught a good cycle on that. I'm also going to go for a fairly hard jump at the end here. That wasn't it. I just got squished between that ledge and the wall, and it did barely enough damage to finish me off. That was good. Anyway, fairly hard jump at the end here. But it saves something like 15 seconds. Come on. That one. There we go. Anyway, there aren't any other runners for this game, but of the people that had played it casually and watched my runs, a lot of them, including me, seem to agree it's around, like, level 7 is where the game gets too hard casually. That's where a lot of people got before giving up and just using cheats to beat the game. I never actually beat this casually until I started running it. This level has some fun platforming, jumping around between the sections of road. I'm gonna go for another fairly tight jump across here. There we go. Very good. Very, very good.
Warning. Incoming tears. Evacuate area immediately.
And get the first tear. Excellent, excellent.
Tear ended.
I'm also going to point out a small thing that I'm taking into consideration for the next tear. You've probably noticed on the right side of the screen sometimes little vid windows come up and someone will talk to you. Those windows I don't like. They lag the game, first of all, which, you know, slows down everything a lot. But also, if one of those is up, it will delay the next tear spawning, so if I go just a little bit more forward from here, it's going to start one of those vid windows with Mike the TV, and if I did that, I would have to wait like 20 seconds for it to finish, and this tear would not spawn until it was done. So yeah, there are a few little things like that that you have to keep track of while doing this. And you can see while this is up how much slower the game is running. I'm going to grab a blaster upgrade right here. This is a nice little jump you can do to grab that. And then you saw that police vehicle just go by. I'm gonna wait for it to come back and use it for a jump up to the third tear. I wish there were more jumps like this in the run, where you use, like, cars or scenery or something to get somewhere early, but that's the only one I've found that's really practical. I have found another one in level 4, but I have not found a good way to set it up, so it doesn't end up being faster. You're forced to use it all the time. It is the main method of movement for the game. The hoverboard, that is, yeah. Also, I'm just going to point out, all of these buildings are completely intangible. You can just go right through them. Did I get a good cycle here? Ooh, hell yeah, I actually did.
Key acquired. Green vid window accessible.
That last little triangle I touched was another pistol upgrade, but like I said, it's already level 3, so it can't get any stronger. Just stays there.
Complete.
Okay, we're going to be going on to the first boss now. It's that big vehicle you can see in the loading screen here. Bosses are a little bit different from normal levels. Some of them have a tear, some of them don't. There are no keys, there are no vid windows. You beat the boss. If there's a tear, you mend the tear. That's it. Bosses are most of where I'm going to be using rockets. Like I said, they are inaccurate enough for the most part that I won't use rockets, but as long as you're kind of in a straight line in front of the boss, you should hit it. So now I'm going to just wail on it with the pistol until I get to an ammo pickup, and then I'll hit it with rockets again, and hopefully it'll die. The bosses, once you know how to fight them, are not very hard. They're actually one of the easier parts of this game. If you don't know how to fight them, some of them are not very obvious and have weird things you have to keep track of. Ooh, that was very fast.
The Meg ABC won't be a problem anymore.
Hey, you can't see it, but I have my splits open right now, and that was a small gold. 2/3 of a second gold. So, very nice. Okay, so this is level 7. Like I said earlier, this is where the game really starts picking up. This first tear alone is really difficult sometimes. There's this statue that carries it, and the statue moves randomly. Hold on, let me focus. Oh, thank God. If that statue wants to, it'll just, like, run up to you and pummel you with the tear until you die. And there's not really anything you can do about that. So, yeah. I'm gonna grab this invincibility and then go over to the second tear so I can just ignore the 4 turrets in this room. The invincibility will almost certainly have run out by the time I get to the third tear, but the enemies in this room aren't as accurate, so I'm not too worried about them hitting me. They have killed me before, but it's very rare for them to actually do that. Okay, and then after that I'm gonna go for a couple of unintended jumps out of this pit. There are supposed to be long paths that you're supposed to go through to get to that key, and another one I'm gonna jump to. But if you do some... yeah, that jump wasn't gonna work. If you do some fairly precise platforming, you can just get to them from here. And actually, that first jump I did was pretty easy. This one is much harder. Oh, very nice. First try. It used to be I would go for that jump once or twice, and if I didn't get it, I would go back to the normal path. But I've been getting it often enough in runs that I just keep going for it until I get it now. Also, if you saw I was running low on health there, as long as you know where all of the health pickups are, you will very rarely actually take so much damage that it kills you. I'm gonna grab the last key, and then I'm gonna grab a rocket upgrade here. So I now have the level 2 rockets. Unlike the pistol and the blaster, if you miss a rocket upgrade, that's it. There are only 3 of them in the game. And if you don't have the level 3 rockets at the end, you're gonna have problems. This is one of the longer levels. First I'm going to go up this little tower thing. There's a key at the top. Like I said, the movement is really floaty, kind of wobbly, so I'm gonna focus here for just a second. There we go. And then I'm going to grab a blaster upgrade, and I now have the level 3 blasters. The level 3 blaster is enough to take out the turrets in this level in one shot, which is very nice, because we would have a lot of problems if we couldn't do that. It would make this whole level much harder.
Access granted.
And I'm actually going to use the rockets in this room on these guys.
Warning.
Like I said, I mostly won't use rockets on non-bosses, but sometimes it's better. Also, you could even see in that little bit there how so many of the rockets I was shooting just went straight into the floor. That's why I don't use rockets through most of this run. Even on flat ground with enemies right in front of me, the rockets just were not doing the right thing. When I come out of this room, I'm actually going to grab a health and ammo pickup, just to make the next stretch easier. I'm going to kill those guys now because I am going to come back through here later. If I don't have a blaster charged shot ready, I'm probably going to just spam shots into the general area of whatever I'm aiming at. It's not as ammo efficient, but it is fast. It is very fast. These rotating pillars can be a little tricky to get through. Anyway, the next tear is going to be at the top of this room. If I play really, really well and manage to avoid a lot of lag, I can get here before the tear spawns, but that's pretty rare. Also, if you're careless, when you jump up here, the gravitational field of the tear will just spin you around and throw you back to the bottom of the room. So you gotta be careful for that. There we go. I'm gonna grab another secondary weapon here.
Antivirus stored.
That is the antivirus. If you hit turrets with the antivirus, they will turn blue and be allies instead of shooting at you. The game kind of wants you to use that in a few places to deal with bigger things, but the turrets that you make your allies are not actually very strong or useful against those bigger things. However, it does make it so that I don't actually have to fight some of the beefier turrets. You know, later in the game when turrets take quite a few hits to take out, it's much easier to just hit them with antivirus so I can ignore them. Also, the game kind of expects you to go down a long path to get out of this area. It's much faster to do these what appear to me to be unintended jumps to just get back out the way you came in.
Enemy destroyed.
And I hit a few bombs there, but again, they don't do much damage. Not enough to worry about. If I'm doing really bad on health there's another health pickup in that room I could have grabbed, but I think I'm going to be fine. Oh, I like it more when these boxes line up, but still made it across. Okay, just gotta go back up here again and get to the exit. Like I said, that's a long level. It's just a lot of back and forth in a fairly simple area. Bregerman, thank you. This next level, we don't have to wait on the tears at all. They spawn pretty much immediately. The structure of this level is like a big layered pyramid. Originally, I, would go up all the way along it, and it'd be very long, and you can only barely mend the tears if you do that. I have since found skips to get up each layer of the pyramid, so instead of continuing along it right now, I'm going to go down here and jump up that little ramp, and go right up here to the next tear. And then again, instead of going along like the level kind of implies you to do, you can turn around and make a jump here, and you're already at the next layer. Now I am going to shoot at these turrets along here. This would be a good use for the antivirus, except those turrets will just be physically in your way. So instead I save the antivirus for up here to take care of these guys and keep them off my back. And the last part of this level, it's a bit of difficult platforming. It's 4 little branches where each one has a key at the end, and if you fall you need to scale some amount of the pyramid again. Okay, good. So falling can cost you anywhere from like 20 seconds to, a minute even, going all the way back up the pyramid. This game can be really brutal, honestly. Although that was some very good platforming. Very nice.
Red vid window accessible.
If you fall after getting a key, it's not as big a deal, but still annoying.
Level.
But I got through that fairly fast. Very happy with that. We're going to be going to the second boss now. It's the big dragon-looking thing in the upper left corner there. This boss was the hardest one for me to figure out. If you hit it with rockets immediately, it will hold up its arms and shield itself, but it doesn't actually hold up its arms very much, so it's not entirely obvious that it's doing that. So for a while I thought, oh, sometimes the boss is just invincible and you can't do anything about it, but no, you just, you hit it with blaster shots for a bit. Eventually it'll let out a crazy moan like that, and at that point you can wail on it with rockets until it dies, or until you're, out of ammo. Either way. Yeah, that's enough. Cool. Very nice. Not bad at all. Okay, we're about halfway through the game now, and we're gonna get to some of my favorite levels. This is Kits. This is like the residential section of ReBoot. It is pretty impressive for a PS1 game. It looks awesome. I'm gonna start the level by grabbing some more antivirus for a few levels from now. This level has 3 paths. Each path has an upper and lower area. The lower area will have a tear spawn, the upper area has a key. If you fall from the upper area, you pretty much need to just wait until you've dealt with all the tears before trying again. If you fall really early, you might be able to get another try in at getting the key, but it's probably safer to just wait. That big guy in the middle of the room is shooting rockets at you. There's a bunch of turrets around him, and antivirus in the middle of the level, so the game kind of, you know, expects you to use the antivirus on the turrets, so they'll take out the big thing. But the thing is, the rockets it's shooting are very strong, but they're rockets, so they're also very inaccurate, and they probably won't hit you. It's really easy to avoid them. Get out of here, turret. There we go. Ammo is not too much of a concern in this level, and neither is health. Oh, that was not great. You know what, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna try again for the key. I might be able to make it, just barely. The tear spawns pretty soon here. I might ditch it and go back for... You know what? That should be okay, though. The tears in this level are also weird. They'll spawn, but the timer won't start until you actually get down to the path there. That was not too bad, although I'm lower on health than I would like to be. I think I'll still be okay, but there is a health pickup at the end here. And if I'm lucky, one of these turrets will also just drop health for me. Like that. What a hero that turret just was. But then, like I said, I'm at the end now. I don't need any more ammo, so ammo is just not an issue. But anyway, yeah, then there's a health pickup here if you need it. If you're worried about the rockets from this guy killing you at this point. Surprised it runs as smoothly as it does. So here's the thing. I'm playing on a PS2 right now. And the PS2, I believe, I have not, like, gone out of my way timing this, but I believe it's about 5 minutes faster than the PS1 for this run. All because of how much the PS1 lags. It's like the whole game is playing at about 80% speed. It's so miserable. Oh, come on, get in there.
Level complete.
Yeah, fast disk speed helps. But the PS2 itself, even if you use standard disk speed, it saves a lot of time. Okay, we're going to the kit's boss now.
There's nothing you could do to stop the
This boss is kind of a weird one. It's in 2 phases. You hit it until its legs break, and then you hit it until its torso breaks, and then you mend the tear. Normally, it'll be going along here... Oh, I gotta watch my health. It'll be going along here, it'll get to like a little arena area, and then stop while you deal with whatever phase of the fight you're on. There we go, but if you're fast, you can take out the legs before it gets to the first one, and then if you're really fast, you can also take out the torso before it gets to the first arena, but I've only done that a couple of times. It's very hard. You need good rocket luck to do that. But anyway, then it'll go to another little arena area. Also, you can see there just how many of my rockets were immediately just plowing into the ground or walls or whatever. There's the tear. There we go. That wasn't too bad. I've done better, but that was not bad at all. Okay. I'm now going to, I think, the hardest level in the game, I would call it. Or at least the hardest level in the run. This is Floating Point Park. There are a lot of floating islands around that are moving around. They're all on different cycles.
Floating point off.
This is also the level I grabbed the antivirus for. The thing is, they're not on the same cycle, they're on different cycles, so if you miss one, your whole level is really bad now. The time loss just builds and builds and builds depending on how far back you were when you missed a cycle.
Incoming tears. Evacuate area.
There are 4 little paths you're going to go along. 3 of them have a tear, all of them have a key.
Acquired.
But yeah, I'm going to try to catch all of the cycles I can. I have a route that makes it so that they all work out pretty nicely. And then yeah, each of these paths has turrets along it that are kind of annoying. That's why I grabbed the antivirus. Ooh, oh. That was a very lucky jump onto that platform. I started at a bad angle. Sorry, I'm gonna be a little quiet here while I focus on this. I'd like to catch as many of these as I can, although I've already gotten through 3 of the 4 paths without missing anything, so even if I died at this point, this is a good floating point park for me. It's really easy to miss one of those early jumps and lose, like, a minute and a half on this level. Also, there are those big golf cart enemies. They look kinda silly, but it's worth mentioning those are almost definitely the most dangerous thing in this level. Oh, very nice. They will throw golf clubs at you, which will just push you off a cliff. And there's not much you can do about it if they do. That was a bad jump, but here, let me explain the way falling works in this. When you fall, it uses a third of your ammo to pull yourself back up. And if you have less than a third of your ammo remaining, then it kills you. So that fall was not a problem because I haven't been using my main weapons at all. That was a good floating point park. That was my second best floating point park in a run. My best one was in my PB, and I know this is my second best because my best one was a gold split by like 30 seconds. And I only lost 10 seconds to that, so that was very good. I'm very happy with how that just went. This is another boss. This one doesn't have a tear. You just shoot it until it dies. This one's really easy, also. Oops, come on. You just gotta be a little conscious of your health and your ammo consumption. There we go.
What have you done to Clash? I'll delete you with the last thing I do, Guardian.
Okay, we're getting to the last chunk of levels in the game now. For those of you who are familiar with the show and the story, this is Megabyte's home sector. Hexadecimal has turned on him and she's sending tears into his area. The story really doesn't matter much. It's very simple. This is another level where I'm going to use a death abuse strat. This is actually the level where I discovered that you could spawn the third tears early. Because I kept dying accidentally on the way to the second tear. And at some point I noticed, hey, that third tear spawned like 40 seconds before it should have. So I'm gonna let this guy do a little bit of damage to me before I kill him. I'd like him to do more than that. You know, funny enough, it's really easy to accidentally die on this level, but it's kind of hard to quickly and efficiently kill yourself here. And yeah, I do have enough lives where this should not be an issue. Normally I'll get to this level and I'll have, 2 or 3 lives left, and then I need to kill myself, and it starts getting to a big risk of me getting a game over. But I should be fine right now. After I break this tear, I'm going to wait for a few seconds and then jump down. That big tower does damage to you when you're near it, sometimes. It's the actual, lightning bolts and explosion that do damage, so you need to just kind of get lucky and hope that it hits you. That was fine. That was good enough. Okay, I'm going to go for some... I used to call this fairly tricky platforming back when I started doing it, but compared to some of the other things I'm doing in the run now, it's really not that hard anymore. But I mean, anytime you're jumping onto slopes and then quickly jumping off of them, you're at risk of just falling. Now, the reason this level is so hard is because of this scaffolding area. Oof. Yeah, you need to go back across that after you mend the second tear here. And it's so easy to fall off of that. Okay. Now, if I did the death abuse right, the third tear should spawn in a few seconds here. There it is. Oh, that's fine. It's not necessary to get across that, it just makes everything easier, because the alternative is doing this jump. That was luck. That was 100% luck. I have tried to do that jump like 20 times in a row without getting it once. That jump is very hard. But I'm going to make my way over to the last tear here. I mentioned before tears have kind of a weird gravity about them, and so mending this tear on this little walkway here is actually really hard. It took me a long time and a lot of practice to be able to do that consistently without getting thrown off. And I'm going to do a little unintended jump there to get up to the end of the level. Or the last key, rather, and the path to the end. Gotta wait for this box to move by. So I can run over here. Good, just barely made that. This jump is also, sadly, not free, but got it first try. Very nice. Okay, level 16. This is another one where the tears are going to be spawning immediately, but I'm actually not going to go to them immediately. There are also a couple of side paths that have the keys, and I have found it is significantly faster to get the first key before the first tear, and the second key before the third tear. This level also has much stronger turrets. Again, they got another upgrade. So I'm not even going to bother fighting them. There's no reason for me to be shooting at them right now. I won't be able to kill them. I mean, I could if I spent like 20 seconds shooting at them, but this is a speedrun. We want to go fast. Make my way up to the tear now, just doing a couple of slope jumps here. Slopes are a little weird. If you're strafing against a slope, you can get a lot of extra height on it, sometimes. I'm gonna grab some invincibility going into the room with the second tear. You also might notice there's a thing there. That is the final rockets upgrade. And rockets are the only weapon I'm gonna use for the rest of the game now. They are still very ammo heavy. They still are very inaccurate. They will frequently just plow into ground or walls or whatever. However, every time you shoot, there are so many rockets that come out that it doesn't matter how inaccurate they are. One of them is bound to hit what you're aiming at. So yeah, they're far and away the best weapon at this point. I'm gonna go for a skip here. Oh, just barely made that. That jump is hard. If you fail it, you die. So I'm very glad I got that one. Ooh, that's not what I wanted to happen. Let's go over this way. Come on, Bob. Get up there. Come on, Bob. Be the reboot. There you go. And hopefully I'll be able to fall into the vid window. Yeah, before the cutscene plays telling me that it spawned. It's the only level where you can do that. Where the final tear is that close. Okay, this next level is another tricky one, because they all are at this point. The red stuff on the floor is basically lava. If you touch it for... I've never actually checked. I mean, you can see how fast it just killed me from failing that jump. So you can't really fall down there, or you're gonna have problems. There we go. Because of that, this level has the hardest platforming that I don't go for.
Intrepid hero Bob have the right stuff?
Hold on.
Tune in next level and see for yourself.
Okay. You can see the platforms along the lava there. You can jump along them to get to where the next tear is. Instead, I'm going to wait for that box to get here, and I'm just going to ride that box over to where the second tear spawns. It loses, maybe 10, 12 seconds, depending on how well you did the first tear. It's not much time, but it's, ooh, started moving forward a little bit there. It's not much time, but it's something where if I wasn't the only runner and there was actual competition in this game, someone would probably learn to do the platforming down there. I think I have successfully gotten across it without dying once. I'm gonna wait a couple seconds and then grab this invincibility. I want to have this invincibility to get across here, to get to the third tear, but then I also want to still have the invincibility to get to the vid window at the end. So I don't have to do some more very difficult platforming to get there. I actually got here a little earlier than I would have liked to. I should have waited a couple extra seconds before grabbing the invincibility. But that was fine. That was perfectly good enough. So that was the last normal level. There are 2 bosses left, and then that's the end of the game. The first one is Megabyte, the big guy in the chair there. The second one's going to be Hexadecimal. Both of these fights are pretty straightforward. It's a lot more rockets until it's dead. But they're a little tough. You gotta keep your eye on your health here. It's easy to get distracted for even just a couple of seconds on Megabyte, and then notice that your health is in the red, or maybe you died. Hopefully, is that it? That's Megabyte, already done. Hexadecimal is another tough one. If you get her into a certain pattern, she's really easy to fight. But sometimes she will just rush you and push you onto the stage and kill you very fast. So, you know, we hope.
Lost angles, hexadecimal.
First I'm gonna take out these mirrors around. Okay. This is more or less the pattern I want her in, so hopefully this should be good. Time is when the screen goes black after defeating X. So that's the last of the health, and time. Okay, real quick, I'm going to point something out. When I made the submission video for License-a-thon, I wanted to just do like a simple commentated run, and I did that, and I happened to improve my record while making that video. in License-a-thon. This is a new record. I just PB'd by 45 seconds. That's amazing. I can't believe that just happened. There's still room for improvement around. I lost a good 10 to 20 seconds on a few levels. But overall, this was a very good run for me. The bosses all went well. I had a pretty good floating point park. Those are the big things that usually determine how a run goes. So yeah, thank you for having me, License-a-thon. This was amazing. There isn't much of a reboot community. Like I mentioned, I am still the only real runner. We do have a moderator who is not me, who has been verifying my runs when he gets a chance. Hawkrex, he's a cool guy. But if you're interested in running this game, you know, there's still things to find. I said a few times, the movement is hard to get used to, but once you are used to it, it's so satisfying. I highly recommend it. But anyway, I think that is all for me. License-a-thon, thank you again.